fantasy book universe reading order list when it comes to the most popular books on Book Talk. With the big expansion and boom of Romantasy in the book space, Romantasy is a new genre that has been sort of integrated into fantasy. It means we are taking fantasy and romance and putting them together into one sort of combined series that gives us a really nice, deep, amazing fantasy book, but also scratches the itch for those of us who like romance, who like to swoon, who like a little bit of spice. And Romantasy has been sort of like blowing up on Book Talk, blowing up in the book space. Romantasy is arguably one of the most popular genres to read right now. And along with Romantasy, along with fantasy, comes two things that romance series do and fantasy series do, which is they interconnect into overarching, bigger universes. You see stuff like this in Brandon Sanderson's Mistborn. He has an entire universe of like probably 20 plus books. That's a lot. We've got The Lord of the Rings, The Hobbit, those interconnecting universes. We have Game of Thrones, House of the Dragon. Those are a little bit more TV related, but like fantasy has been overarching and combining universes for years. And then Romantasy series like to do this thing where they focus on different couples, sort of an interconnected standalone situation, and we follow different couples in an overarching existing universe. And Romantasy sort of puts those two together. So it makes for a very complicated universe of books that like you really want to get the best experience out of when you're reading. Like you want to get all the Easter eggs, you want to experience everything, you want everything to make sense, and you don't want to miss out. Like the FOMO is real when it comes to a Romantasy universe. So we're going to break it down today. I'm going to make it as simple as possible. I'm going to tell you what I think, and truly, as the master reading order creator of Zodiac Academy, I would recommend that you trust me here because I do know something about a reading order. I know something about giving you the most impactful, Easter egg filled, emotional impact, plot twist reveal experience, and I'm going to tell you how to do that with all of these most popular Romantasy book series currently. So today we are going to go over the Maasverse, consisting of ACOTAR, Throne of Glass, and Crescent City. We're also going to go over Solaria, the Zodiac Academy, Ruthless Boys of the Zodiac, Neverkeep, Sins of the Zodiac, and Darkmoor Penitentiary series. We're going to go over Melissa K. Roach's Legacy series and Lady of Darkness series, along with her upcoming new book that just came out. We're going to go over Book Talk's newest amazing, sensational universe, which is going to consist of The Ascended, Riftborn, and Duskbound, and then we're going to go over one of the most popular new Dragon Rider Dark Academia books, which is going to be the Bloodwing Academy series, and its prequel, Blood of a Fae. So let's go over all of these super popular series, how you should read them, what order you should read them in, and whether or not you have to read all the books in every universe. Spoiler alert, you probably will for the most emotionally damaging, impactful benefit, but let's break them down. Yes, I'm an Aries. Yes, I know it all. Yes, I am correct, okay? I don't want to hear any arguments. Would love to discuss about what you think if you don't agree with these reading orders. However, let's not be rude. I figured I would match this series today. So let's start out with Book Talk's biggest universe, biggest Romantasy series, the Maasverse by Sarah J. Maas, which consists of some series that are completed and some that are not. We have the everybody's heard of A Court of Thorns and Roses. That is the first book in the series. This is ACOTAR, A Court of Thorns and Roses. We just call it the ACOTAR series. Then we have Throne of Glass, which is a completed 8-book series. And then we have the Crescent City series, which is an incomplete 3-book series. These two series are both incomplete, but I do think that the reading order we have going right now is something that you would apply to all of these when they are complete. So let's go over the series, what they're about, and what to expect when you're reading ACOTAR and the Maasverse. So when we're talking about the Maasverse, we have, first of all, the ACOTAR series consisting of 5 books here. One of them is a novella, and they are all very important and integral to the Maasverse. So what is ACOTAR? ACOTAR is about Fae. It is high fantasy, however, it is a solid Romantasy that is very romance forward. It's got spicy moments in it. It's for the girlies that are looking for spice, that are looking for romance. It is ultimately for the readers who came from reading romance, who are interested into stepping into fantasy. It could also be for the people who are reading fantasy who want to maybe step into romance and get a little bit more into romance and mix them together. This is going to be the easiest series to read out of the Maasverse. This is a great intro series. This is good if you're just getting into Romantasy, and it's going to be the one that sort of like sucks you in and gets you obsessed with Romantasy. This one also does something super weird. We're going to follow a certain FMC for the first 3 books of the series. Her name is Feyre, and it's written in first person POV. That means it's from her perspective, and then we are going to switch in the last 2 books currently into third-person POV, and A Court of Silver Flames follows her sister, Nesta, a different narrator in third-person POV. So it kind of acts as a trilogy. Books 1, 2, and 3 have a story arc, have a romance arc, have a lot of arcs that are concluded in book 3. The series and the story does continue, but it takes a different path, follows different characters, and gives a completely different vibe when you get into Frost and Starlight and Silver Flames. So that is what we are breaking down in ACOTAR. Moving on to the Throne of Glass series. So Throne of Glass is a completed 8-book series that is quite old at this point. Honestly, Throne of Glass has been around for a long time. Throne of Glass is a little bit more high fantasy. There are different ways to read just this series, which we will get into when we talk about it, but Throne of Glass is for the fantasy lovers. Yes, it has romance in it, but I would call it a romantasy, but I feel like it's a little bit more 60-40 when it comes to the romance versus the fantasy. There's a lot of plot in this. There's a lot of world building in this. Girlies who are out there reading romance sometimes have a little bit harder time jumping straight into this and like getting excited and wanting to finish it right away. This is for our high fantasy girlies who have grown up reading fantasy. However, this is not so hard to understand that it's not still a decent intro into fantasy and romantasy, but if you're looking for romance and you're looking for spice, you're gonna have to wait a good like 6 books before you get anything like that. So just know going in, this is also completed, so there's not potentially at the moment going to be anything added to it. However, things about Throne of Glass and from Throne of Glass do appear in the other series. And then we have the Crescent City series, which right now consists of 3 books. It is not a trilogy, it is not a finished series. We still have a lot of things open-ended. Crescent City is an urban fantasy, so it is high fantasy. It has its own magic system. However, it takes place in an urban setting. It has a more futuristic vibe. We've got cell phones, we've got modern clothing, we've got yoga pants and tennis shoes, so it's not your like Bridgerton feeling period piece vibe. There is a lot of world building in Crescent City as well. I personally would call Crescent City the hardest series out of the Maasverse. It's harder to get into for some people. I've been reading fantasy my entire life, so I personally did not find it hard to get into. And Crescent City 1 is my favorite Sarah J. Maas book ever out of the Maasverse. So I do treat it as a standalone. We'll talk about that at the end. These are the 3 series though that consist of the Maasverse. So let's talk about the reading order. Now listen, there are a lot of arguments and opinions and ways to talk about reading the Maasverse. I'm gonna give you the one that I think is gonna work best, okay? That's it, that's all it is. If you don't like it, you can tweak it and switch things about it, but I'm gonna keep it very simple. I'm not gonna give you 5,000 options, and I'm not gonna like tell you a bunch of confusing things. We're just gonna lay out what I think the best reading order is, and also, this is the best rereading order if you are gearing up for ACOTAR 6. This is definitely how I would recommend rereading it. However, this is also how I would recommend reading it for the first time as well. When you are picking up the Maasverse for the first time, you are going to start with the first 3 books of ACOTAR. You're gonna start off with A Court of Thorns and Roses, A Court of Mist and Fury, and A Court of Wings and Ruins. Why? Because of what I said earlier. These are basically a trilogy. They're told from Feyre's POV, they're all written in first-person POV, and we do get a conclusion at the end of book 3. So this, number 1, is gonna tell you whether or not you like Romantasy, whether or not you like ACOTAR. If you read the first 3 and you hate it, honestly, don't continue on. So you're gonna read the first 3 books in the ACOTAR series. That is step 1. Then you are going to read all 8 books in the Throne of Glass series, and we're gonna break down. This is the only place I'm gonna give you options based on what you know. If you know about Throne of Glass, if you've been on Book Talk, if you know any spoilers, if you've heard anything about the characters, anything about the romance, anything, if you know anything about the series, you're going to read Throne of Glass first and Assassin's Blade third. If you don't know anything about Throne of Glass, no spoilers, no one's given anything away, you literally just know the name of the books and that everybody recommends them, you are going to read Assassin's Blade first and then carry on with the rest of the series. The other option you have here is to do a tandem read with Tower of Dawn and Empire of Storms. I'm gonna tell you, I'm just gonna keep it straight up, I don't recommend the tandem read. That is an option that you can choose to change about this reading order if you want to. There's a separate guide for that. You can find it all over the internet, and Etsy has reading order bookmarks for you. But I did not do the tandem read, and I loved not doing the tandem read. I like character development journeys. I don't like popping back and forth. I felt way more connected, immersed, and in the moment when I read them back to back without tandem reading. So I would recommend don't do the tandem read. However, that's the only optional part. You can do it if you want to. Now, after reading Throne of Glass, you're gonna go back to the ACOTAR universe and read A Court of Frost and Starlight, which is the first book in the ACOTAR series written from third-person POV. Basically, this acts as a Christmas special. It's gonna reintroduce you to the world of Prithian. It's gonna reintroduce you to the characters, gonna update you with where everybody is and what's going on. And then you're going to read A Court of Silver Flames, which is a very different tone, story, and vibe than the rest of the ACOTAR series personally, and it is my favorite book in the ACOTAR series. So you're gonna read these two, and right now these are the only books we have out for the ACOTAR series. After you read A Court of Silver Flames, then you're going to dive into the Crescent City series. Now, why am I recommending it this way? Now, we're not gonna give away any spoilers, but Crescent City and ACOTAR are connected, okay? There are crossovers that happen. There are spoilers in book 3, huge spoilers for book 5 for Silver Flames. So there is no other good place to read Crescent City other than after ACOTAR. I would never recommend that you read Crescent City anywhere else than after ACOTAR. All of the books that are currently out need to be read before you read Crescent City. And the reason that we're reading Crescent City here is because when ACOTAR 6 comes out, I am very certain there are going to be spoilers for Crescent City in ACOTAR 6. So there is really only one way to read this. You're going to read ACOTAR book 5, then you're gonna read all 3 books in Crescent City, and then when ACOTAR 6 comes out, that is going to be the next book in the reading order that I would suggest. Crescent City, the other reason we're reading it last in here is because it is higher fantasy. It's sometimes harder to read if you're coming from romance. It's denser a little bit. Now this, again, my favorite book in the series is Crescent City 1. I will be honest with you, I didn't like Crescent City 3. However, I feel like the series has time to pick up and get better from where we went there. But this is going to give you time to acclimate yourself to world building, to acclimate yourself to the way Sarah J. Maas writes, to acclimate yourself to magic systems and all that kind of thing, so that when you get to Crescent City, you're not like, what the heck is this? This is really hard to read, I don't understand. You're gonna have prepped yourself with 2 whole series before you get to this. So that's why we're gonna recommend Crescent City here. And that's also why I would recommend never reading Crescent City before ACOTAR. Also, that's why I don't recommend just reading ACOTAR and Crescent City. There are also Throne of Glass Easter eggs and probably potential future crossovers in here. So all of these are very interconnected, and I do think this is a case where it's very important to read them all to get the max benefit. Now, do you have to? No, but I really do think that if you're going to read ACOTAR, you have to read Crescent City because they're so intertwined at this point that like you're literally missing chunks of the story if you don't read Crescent City. Can you still do it? Yes, but I would not recommend it. So here is the screenshot version of my official Maasverse reading guide. This is how I would recommend it. Go ahead, take a moment, take a screenshot, let me know what you think, and let's move on into Zodiac Academy. Let's talk about the great big wonderful world of Solaria, which consists of 4 series at this point. So this one, I have a huge video solely dedicated to the full Solaria reading order. I gave you 3 ways to read it. I broke down everything about the series, and it gives you literally every question you could ever have answered. So that is, I'm gonna link that in the caption, but I have a full Solaria deep dive. I'm gonna go over the best reading order in here, and we're gonna go through it in a much more simple way. The world of Solaria consists, first of all, of Zodiac Academy, a 9-book series that has multiple novellas, dark academia, shifters, super spicy, and lots of different love stories. There is not a why choose element in here. This is one person for each. It is not an anthology. You have to read it in order. I don't know who made up that rumor. And yes, it is spicy, but it is also one of the best and most well done slow burn enemies to lovers that I've ever read. So Zodiac Academy is series 1, the most popular. Then we have Ruthless Boys of the Zodiac, which is a completed 5-book series. It is a reverse harem, it is dark academia, and it is a prequel to Zodiac Academy. Then we have Darkmoor Penitentiary, which is a completed 4-book series. That is a sequel to Darkmoor and kind of a sequel to Zodiac Academy. Then we have Never Keep, which is way in the future. It's got 2 books out. The next book is coming out this month in March, so Cindervale. It's going to be a 3-book series. This takes place in a very, very far in the future devolved society, so chronologically it takes place after all of the other books. And I think that's it. Okay, So the way that you're gonna read Zodiac Academy, I'm gonna have to put these up on screen because I don't have all of the books. So let me clear some space for myself and tell you how to read it. This is the most emotionally damaging, spoiler-free, best way to read the series if you don't want the enemies to lovers to feel shallow, if you don't want the character development to feel shallow, if you want the most emotional damage, if you want the plot twist to hit hardest, and if you want just like the overall best experience ever. I will stand by this reading order for the rest of my life. So for Zodiac Academy, it's gonna start similarly to the Maasverse. You're gonna read Zodiac Academy books 1, 2, and 3. Again, this kind of acts like a trilogy. It's gonna tell you whether or not you like the series, whether you like the writing style. It's gonna tell you whether or not you should keep going. After books 1, 2, and 3, this is the big one that a lot of people don't like. You're going to move on to Ruthless Boys of the Zodiac and read all 5 back to back. The whole thing, nothing crazy about reading Ruthless Boys. Why are you doing that? Because there's a huge spoiler for Ruthless Boys in book 4 of Zodiac Academy, okay? Listen, again, if you want the deep dive, go to my original order, but we're gonna go 1, 2, 3, and then all 5 books of the Ruthless Boys of the Zodiac. After you read the Ruthless Boys of the Zodiac, you're gonna read Zodiac Academy book 4, which is one of the best books in the entire series, in the entire universe, and this is where you're gonna get mad. After you read book 4 of Zodiac Academy, you're gonna go back and read Zodiac Academy book 0.5 and 1.5, which is the prequel told from different POVs, told from the boys' POV, and then the origin of the story in general. Why are you not reading those first? Because there are spoilers in them for book 4, so you have to read them after book 4, okay? So book 4, 0.5, 1.5, then you're gonna read Foxy Tales. If you need to skip Foxy Tales, you can. It becomes available once a year. The authors re-release it. It is a novella of bonus material, different POV chapters, but it is absolutely worth the read. After you take the pit stop and read the little novellas, you're going to read Zodiac Academy book 5, 5.5 novella, 5.6 novella, and then I think there's a 5.7 novella, so you're going to basically read 5, The Big ASS Party, Seth on the Moon, and Night. Now, everybody asks where you find those novellas. The Big ASS Party has its own novella. It's this little one of these little tiny ones in here. Leon's story, Night, and Seth on the Moon are both inside Live and Let Lionel. So it's a little weird. You're gonna pick up that novella, find the chapters. I'm gonna put the pages right here for Seth on the Moon and Night. You're gonna read those. That's it, and you're gonna put this back in front of spot number 9. Okay, after you read those novellas, we're gonna read books 6 and 7, back to back, nothing complicated. Then you're going to make a choice, and you're going to read book 8 by itself, or you're going to read books 8 and 8.5 in a tandem read. This is the only time I would recommend a tandem read, and I'm gonna give you a little bit of insight. I have a tandem read guide that I'm gonna put right here. What I'm gonna recommend, listen, we're gonna put all this up in a big screenshot at the end, so don't freak out. Read the first 100 pages of book 8 without tandem reading, because that is where all of the emotional damage, despair, sadness lies, okay? Book 8 is one of the saddest books in the Zodiac Academy series. Read the first 100 pages and then pick up this tandem reading guide from the first 100 pages on, okay? So you're gonna need to read 100 pages, a big chunk of 8.5, then follow the tandem reading order from there. That is just for the max emotional damage. You can also just read 8, 8.5 separately, just like Throne of Glass, or you can do the full tandem read if you need a little bit less emotional damage. That's where I would recommend the tandem read. After that, you're going to read Live and Let Lionel, which is the novella of bonus content. It's not just alternate POV chapters, it is bonus content that I feel is important and fun for the story. If you love the world of Solaria, don't skip the novellas. If you hate it, number 1, why are you reading it? And number 2, like, why are you reading it? But you're gonna read Live and Let Lionel, and then you're gonna read book 9 of Zodiac Academy. That's gonna wrap up Zodiac Academy. From there, you're going to read Darkmoor Penitentiary, books 1, 2, 3, 4, nothing complicated, okay? After Darkmoor Penitentiary, you're going to start the Sins of the Zodiac series, Neverkeep, Echo Fort, and Cindervale. That's it. That takes us to the end of the Solaria Universe. Here is your reading order guide. Here it all is in a big graph. I also have a website. I'm gonna put it right here, and I have downloadable PDFs of all 3 reading order options and the tandem reading guide. So you can take this screenshot here, but also head to my website because I have PDFs that are really pretty and they look good, and that's actually what I'm putting on screen right now, so you can see them all. But here's what they look like if you want a downloadable version. I'm gonna put a link to that. And that's gonna bring us to the end of Solaria. There is a new series, Hollow, that is coming out, that is out by the Twisted Sisters. That has nothing to do with Zodiac Academy. It does not apply to this reading order. Read that wherever you want to. All right, let's talk about Book Talk's next huge series. Book Talk's next baby. Book Talk's next ACOTAR / Maasverse, but a little bit less books, not as many, okay? So you may have heard me ranting about The Ascended. The Ascended is a new series. It's going to be a duology, so it's only going to be 2 books by Bree and Parker. So this is for our Maasverse lovers, okay? This is an excellent series and universe to dive into while you're waiting for ACOTAR 6, because we are getting some more releases for this series this year. So listen, I read The Ascended first. The Ascended is a story. It is really interesting. I don't want to give you any spoilers. It's games and trials, magic, political intrigue, lots of like deep emotional damage, character development. Like, this is one of the best things that I read in 2025. This is a god tier book. It has a series that goes with it. It has Riftborn and Duskbound that go with it. So here are the 3 books that are out in the series. We've got Riftborn, Duskbound, The Ascended book 2 that is coming, and the 3rd book in the Realm Blade series. So the first series is going to be a trilogy. The second series is going to be a duology. There is a way you should read these, okay? It's very important, arguably more important than the Maasverse. When you read these series, you're going to start with Riftborn and Duskbound. It is essential that you read these first. I read them backwards, so I'm telling you, as a person who made the wrong decision, who experienced reading it the other way, don't do that. You can do that, it's fine, but for the biggest plot twist, crossover, jaw-dropping, exciting experience, read Riftborn, read Duskbound, then read The Ascended, and I believe the way that it's gonna come out, we're going to get book 3 of this trilogy, read that, and then when the second book in the duology comes out, that is gonna be your reading order for this series. This one's way more simple, but I have to put it on here because it is important, the order in which you read it. Nothing complicated about this one, just read the prequel first and then read second series. However, I do think when they're all released, it's still gonna make sense to do Riftborn and Duskbound, book 1 in The Ascended, then the 3rd book in Riftborn, 2nd book in The Ascended. So we'll put that out right here with a little question mark. Here you have your screenshot for this. And this is a really good one to suck yourself into, get sucked into while we're waiting on ACOTAR. Let's talk about something darker, spicier, more emotionally damaging. We have the Legacy series and the Lady of Darkness series by Melissa K. Roach. Now, the Lady of Darkness series is #1, the series that is always recommended. If you like Throne of Glass, you'll probably like this. I totally agree, gives a lot of the same vibes, but then eventually becomes its own story. Then we have the Legacy series, which is intertwined with the Lady of Darkness series. It is a completed 4-book series. The Lady of Darkness series is a completed 5-book series. So this one again is less complicated, but kind of complicated. So for this one, I did not come up with this reading order. I am personally going to follow Kirsten's chaos reading order, and we're gonna put that right here. So the reason that we wanna do this is because, similar to something like Crescent City and ACOTAR, the Legacy series has a big crossover and big things happening when it comes to here. So you are gonna read the Lady of Darkness series in one chunk, but you're gonna split up the Legacy series, kind of like how we did in the Solaria, Zodiac Academy, and Ruthless Boys. It kind of acts like that. You're gonna need to read the prequel after you've started the Legacy series. I don't think it makes as much sense to read them first in completely chronological order. I think it's gonna affect you more. It's gonna give you a better experience if you read them exactly like this right here. Here is your reading order to snapshot. Here it is. This is another series that I read incorrectly, and upon reading it incorrectly, I saw this reading order and I said, that makes way more sense. I would have had better experience if I had done that. So that's why we're gonna recommend that reading order. And if you haven't read this series yet, this is consisting of completed series. So we're not waiting on anything else to come out. However, Melissa K. Roach, the author, did just release a new book called Tortured Souls that is in this same universe. I'm not sure yet how it ties in, but I'm pretty sure it follows someone from the Lady of Darkness series. So once we know more about that series, I might come back in and update on how you should read that or where you should read that. I would recommend having read all of these before you read Tortured Souls, because it is following a character directly out of one of these series. It's not a brand new, completely different thing. So dive into this, work on this. They're both completed series, and then head on into Tortured Souls and torture your soul, because I have heard it's absolutely amazing. I'm kind of scared to read it, honestly. Now, this last little universe, I don't have all the books for it right now, and it does consist of at least one completed series. This is one that not a lot of people know contains multiple series within the same universe. And there is a lot of questions that have been asked about Bloodwing Academy that are answered if you read this the right way. So listen, we have this very popular book that blew up on Book Talk called On Wings of Blood, and it is currently 3 books right now. The 3rd book is coming out or is already out, depending on when you're seeing this video. It comes out in March, and that is going to be 3 books, and I believe the series overall is going to be 4 books. So the thing about Bloodwing Academy is it has a prequel called The Blood of a Fae. First book is Queen of Roses, and this is a completed 4-book series, so it is a prequel. The way that I'm going to recommend reading this is, listen, there are 2 different ways for this, honestly, that make the most sense. You can read them chronologically, which means you can read the prequel, and then you can read Bloodwing Academy. That is how I would recommend it, because the first 4 books, the first series, the prequel, is complete. So you're not going to have anything hanging, you're not going to intertwine, you're not going to have to jump around. Read the first 4 books, and then a lot of things in Bloodwing Academy are going to make more sense. The other way you could read it, which is how I read it, which makes just as much sense, but it does require you to skip around a little bit, is to read Bloodwing Academy Book 1, then read the prequel, answers all your questions, and then continue the Bloodwing Academy series with books 2, 3, and 4 when we get it. That's how we're going to recommend reading that. I'm going to put the reading order up right here. I hope that makes sense. And this one's a lot more easy. We dove into the hard ones and then we dove into the easy ones, okay? So I'm giving you easy reading orders, necessary reading orders. Okay, so those are all of the current most popular book series that have interconnecting worlds, interconnecting universe in the Romantasy space right now. Number 1, let me know if I left any off. If you want any other ones explained that I can break down for you. Number 2, let me know if you agree with any of these reading orders. Were any of them weird? I will never take any criticism on the Zodiac Academy one, because that one is 100% correct. Let me know if you read ACOTAR differently though. Let me know if you're rereading it or reading it for the first time. What other series do you need reading orders on? Do you want me to deep dive more into any of these and go a little bit more in depth? I already have a Zodiac Academy full Solaria breakdown, but we could dive a little deeper into the Solaria universe, because technically I do have 3 different ways that I could recommend it based on what you want. I just wanted to give you the most simple, straightforward one for this one, and these are, to be honest, my favorite reading orders for each one. However, if you want a deep dive and you don't like the one I gave you today, we can do a full Maasverse deep dive. We can also talk about theories, but let me know if you have any questions. What else did you need to see? Was anything confusing? Do you have any follow-ups? And are there any other reading orders that you're looking for? I'm working on my big master list of dystopian required reading. We're also working on my master list of high fantasy required reading. So come back, make sure you hit follow, make sure you do all the things, subscribe, follow, like and comment, support this video so that I can keep making them. I do love to yap to you guys about books, so unfortunately at this point now I have to start telling you, do all of the things. Hit subscribe, hit the notify button so that you know when I post a video. Generally I'm going to post them every Friday, so it's going to be the same, but you never know. If I have a lot to talk about, we might go 2 days a week. I don't know. You guys are going to get to decide how often you want to see me post, but this is the channel. This is where I tell you everything about books that is correct, where I give you book recommendations, reading orders, everything as an Aries that is the right way to do everything. So if you're looking for the correct answers to everything, that's going to be this channel, basically. And also just a little aside of 4th wing hate every now and then. We're going to get that too. So that's it. I'll see you next time. I'll see you next Friday. And let me know what you're looking for, if you liked this video, and if you have any thoughts. Ooh, this is hard. Ooh. Oh, good. It's just now heating up, so I get 30 minutes before my